is episode 1 of Sacred Union Podcast, a podcast inspired by our love. I've been wanting to share this for a long time, how we met, our journey, my advice to other couples in marriage or just relationships. But recently, we've been most inspired by our journey as parents. It's been a very new journey, but a very dramatic one. So we're going to talk about that today. And I have my friend Daniela asking us questions as a curious soul that wants to know what it's like to be in our position.
So we have Danielle and Jacob. They're going to be helping out, and they're friends and family.
Yes.
So Danielle's been wanting to film this that I'm aware of at least for like 2 years. So Danielle is a therapist and focuses on relationships, and she wanted to share how we found ours because she said a lot of people were struggling to find their other person. But as J.R. Tolkien says, when times are good, people don't usually have good stories. It's when the bad times happen that the good stories come. And that's where we are right now. I don't want to say it's bad, but our son's been in the NICU. Today's the 53rd day.
The NICU is the neonatal intensive care unit. So he hasn't left the hospital since I gave birth on May 7th.
And we thought that this would be a way that we could possibly give back. Something that really helped Danielle and then therefore helped me was she went deep diving on the internet and saw different couples and people that had kids with disabilities or lost a child or just different tough experiences, and then they shared it, and then the way they shared it made a difference. And it was like, who are we to not share something that might be able to help others?
Yeah, because when you're in that, it's like you feel alone, and it feels like you're in a dark abyss, and these other stories feel like a lighthouse to me, and I want to be a lighthouse for someone else, right? We're at a place right now where we can talk about it. We feel good, but it's day by day, honestly, how we feel.
Yeah. I feel. I think we've turned the corner. We hit what I hope rock bottom is about a week ago. We got called around midnight, told to come in, and we went in, and our son was almost transitioned, and they were resuscitating him. They were trying to keep us in a back room, and we were pushing through, and so we got through, and we held his little hands. And then the next day, we were in a really difficult position, and the next day was probably the worst. And then after that, it was almost like we refound our purpose. And that's really not where we've been. But if we would have been trying to talk about this in the first 6 weeks, I would have just been crying the whole time.
Yep. Yeah.
It's interesting how I don't think there's anything wrong with having doubt or questioning or some of these other things you're going to go through if anybody goes through something similar. But the key is refinding your purpose, getting back up, right? Like in all good movies and all good art, there's always a valley. Like Rocky's a good movie because Rocky gets knocked down like 100 times.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like any movie where everything is perfect, it's not really fun to watch. And it doesn't feel good when you're going through it, but if you can keep that mindset, it'll really help you. And like as you're going through, like this is going to be a great story. I'm going to find a win. This is going to be a great story.
Yeah.
And we're still going through it.
I imagined, I mean, I am on the positive mindset. Joe Dispenza manifesting all those kind of create your reality. So I envisioned this incredible reality for so long. Like every day when I was pregnant, I wake up and think about how having him home and like what the birth would look like and all these things. But the minute he came out of the womb, it was all the uncontrollables, and I had to just surrender completely in that moment. So much so there was a song playing when I gave birth called Trust. It was a song
that we never heard before.
It was on Spotify. It came on my playlist, and the lyrics are trust in the unknown, and it was so beautiful. So I felt like it'll be fine, whatever is happening. In my mind, it'll be fine as I'll see him in 24 hours. He'll be home with us sooner. Like, after 6 weeks of going through this, there's an acceptance point where it's like, this might continue on. We might be halfway. We might be a quarter of the way, but we're just grateful for any moment we get to love him and just show up for him. That's our purpose right now, is showing up for our son, being strong, and also learning how to show up for each other, because it's easy to kind of fall into yourself and forget the person you're doing this with.
Yeah, we're 7.5 weeks in now, and something that it really took a while, and shout out to my barber choice, but I was in this depression that I never understood before, probably the first 5 6 weeks. And again, if people visited, something like that, I'd be able to snap myself out of it. But as soon as they leave, I just didn't have any will to. It wasn't like I didn't have energy. It wasn't like I couldn't do anything. I just didn't have the will to do anything.
It's an empty feeling.
It's an empty feeling. And then my barber choice was just kind of, breaking it down to me like, it's okay to fall down, man, but you got to get back up. Like, you have to do this because it'll empower your wife. It'll do all these different things. And for whatever reason, I'm sure I heard that from a bunch of other people, but that really stood with me.
He's also a parent who's lost a child.
He has lost a child.
And he's experienced the NICU. So the greatest, a lot of people want to hold space for us, and I appreciate all of it. But what I want to talk to is people that navigated the storm, because I could talk about my feelings all day, but it doesn't do the same as I've done this, and this is how I got through it, right? Whatever their version of it was. Because parenting is this whole new thing. People look at us, they're like, that's cute, that's your vision. Just wait. And this is now us seeing the just wait part. And it's a lot harder to figure it out when you're with your peers that have not experienced it.
With that being said, though, I don't think that our vision won't happen. The grand plan of it is just, I don't know.
The plan is different. The vision will continue.
Yeah. I mean, I think the plan is still the same. I think it's just how you get there is different.
Elaborate on how you're seeing this.
Okay, so our grand plan was to have this land and have a holistic healing center and all these things. And to be honest, our son is going to be what catalyzes that.
Yeah, we're using it.
So we thought he was just going to be completely easy and come into this. And because the whole thing about this is we thought, and I still think we did everything right. Like, I didn't drink at all last year. We conceived on the first attempt. Everything was
pregnancy was easy. The birth was quick.
Everything was planned out. The actual pregnancy was completely smooth. The labor couldn't have been smoother, at least from my perspective.
It was smooth.
It was really
quick and intense, but smooth.
So this is actually kind of a perfect example. Like Danielle saying, like, elaborate on the plan. This was something that we go back and forth. Is she's a more visual, right? So she wants things to look exactly how she envisions it. I don't think that way. I think like, all right, cool, what is the end game? And I don't care how it looks getting there. So to me, if our ultimate plan is getting this land and having this holistic healing, and now that I'm out of this depression, now I'm like, all right, cool, well, you know what? Whatever he has, this genetic anomaly or whatever the issue might be, I'm going to use that as fuel to make sure this happens. Like, I think that the plan is actually even enforced.
Yes. There's a greater mission behind it that we could have imagined.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it's... But I think that that's important for everybody to keep in mind is be flexible with what you guys think. Don't give up on it. Just be flexible. Like, surrender to the flow of life, but don't give up on your end game.
It's easy to fall into the victim mindset of like, I didn't order this, I don't want it, this poor me, compare yourself to everybody who has what you think is the vision, but it's not. It's all about how we flow with it, because if we don't flow with it, then we are fighting it our whole lives. And I don't choose to fight anymore. This is what surrender is. I really don't have control of this, but I can choose how it responds, and we're responding towards the vision. That's not changing.
Yeah, I don't think any of it is. It probably is just semantics.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But I think that's an important thing is if you're the one feeling it, is knowing that there's going to be times and then both parties will have to kind of switch, but not to give up on your dreams.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it just might look different. And honestly, like, now that I'm thinking about it, and I've been speaking to other friends recently, now that I'm like, I have this, my energy is back, and I'm just so convinced. And it's like, no, this is exactly why it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I need to have a holistic place where I can have my son with me all the time. I need to grow my own food. I need to have community. And I need to invite other families that have a child with a syndrome, that they can come and learn, and they can work with the animals and on the land. Like now, our vision is an absolute must happen.
Yeah. That energy shift is what got me out. That reminded me of what we were before any of this, right? That momentum. Because if one of us slips, we both slip, right? But if one of us finds our footing, there's that much more force. And you're a huge force, right? When you find that footing, it brings life back into me.
And again, shout out to Choice. What Choice was saying to me was like, you believe in God, so you lean on God. But if you stay laying down, there's nothing for them to lean on. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, give your troubles to the Lord and just keep moving, dog.
Yes.
Daniela.
Hi, I have a question. Well, before the question, when you were explaining how you can't fight against it, it's kind of like a riptide. A lot of people right now, side note, are dying riptides in Florida, so be careful. But if you fight against a riptide, you're going to drown from exhaustion. You have to kind of go with it, flow with it, and it'll carry you out to where you need to go, and then you just kind of like swim parallel to it. So in a way, this is kind of like your guys' riptide. But I also want to speak on more so, Luke. I think it's beautiful that you're saying, it's not about the journey, it's the destination. Your destination is exactly the same. It's just that the journey to get there is a little different, but that's not going to stop you from getting there. It's just not going to be as linear as you, maybe you guys originally thought. How do you think?
I want to jump in on that.
Yeah.
Though. It is about the journey. It's just the journey doesn't have to look away.
You're correct.
I know what you mean. I just wanted to clarify for anybody listening. Like,
yeah.
I'm somebody that believes in you have to, and for those that are watching, this is my NICU bracelet. You have to embrace the journey and the learning and the not knowing. That makes life so much more enjoyable. Because usually when you get to a destination, it's just temporary till you want to go somewhere else.
Correct.
But I'm sorry.
No, that is true. You have to be flexible to it. It's not always going to look how you think. But how do you think, both of you, in this new journey that you're on, for everyone that's out there, how we were speaking before, for a lot of couples, it tears them apart. It creates ridges within the marriage, the relationship. What advice would you give to the people that sometimes there's resentment towards each other? Sometimes the man doesn't know how to, emotionally support the woman during this time and vice versa. So what advice would you give to couples going through something similar, but they don't know how to lean on each other?
So real quick, and then Danielle, you can probably answer this better than I can. We originally looked up online and we saw a study that said 87% of couples divorced when a child had a disability. I was just on a .gov kind of like age site. They're doing a bunch of different studies, and like there's a huge range depending on who did the research.
Yeah.
Some are 70, some are there's no difference, some there's like 85. So if we just go with there's a higher percent of divorces and breakups beforehand, I think being aware of that alone is like, okay, cool. And each couple is different because their dynamics are different. I think we can probably just speak on ours, but for me, well, first you're going to have to acknowledge that in the initial stage, at least for us where we're at now, is in the NICU, like for our son to maximize time with our son, we have to rotate who goes there. Like we can go together, but that means we're together there at the same time. So I'll go in the morning. Sometimes we go together in the afternoon, and Danielle goes at night.
In the afternoon.
So he's getting multiple different trips. So we haven't been able to spend as much time together, but what I've been trying to do is really appreciate the time that we do get and appreciate what she's doing. But how would you answer that?
Well, I already was preparing mentally that when a woman becomes a mother, she changes her mindset. It's about the child, right? There's survival in that, and also just that's the reality. So I was preparing to like try to not forget you while being a mother. But now that I'm in grief kind of like the vision I had and then having to see him the way I see him in the NICU, I'm consumed by him. I think about him day and night. And sometimes I remember we did this together. We're in this together. And I have to remind myself that often because I could easily lose myself and think I'm on this journey alone. And when I do that, I become like a ghost. I just kind of disappear. There's just not much. And I feel so bad that you've seen that version of me. So I'm trying to like be conscious of, we get to come home and sleep in now. Like we get to have our life together and we have a kid. It's this weird silver lining, if you can call it that we get to have more time together, go on dates, cuddle our dogs in the morning. Like, those are the memories I was gonna miss when we have a child, you know? That's what I thought. But now we get it. So I have more appreciation for the time together. And I think that when couples go through hard things together, it makes them stronger if they can move right through challenges. They can always look back and be like, we did that, right? So since we both approach challenges similar, we move through it faster, I think. We don't get caught up in victim mindset and who did what and what we could have done. We just keep moving forward, and that just keeps us at a good momentum. Like, it feels like a true team, how we're approaching this.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think the fact that we've done plenty of ceremonies and other things together, that we have an idea of how the other person's going to act in a tough situation, and everybody acts different. But it's like, all right, cool. So, like, this is how I can support, or I can do this. Like, Danielle likes being active around the house. I like doing other stuff, but I'll do more chores or more things around the house to help her out with certain things. And not as much as I'm sure she wants me to, but more than I was.
You give me beautiful compliments throughout the day. Words of affirmation. A lot of those.
And then, so like what she said, sleeping in, that's not necessarily my reality right now. We did this morning, but I've been getting up early. But Danielle's able to sleep in because, and the reason I go in the morning is she does get up every 3 hours to do the breastfeeding or the
pumping,
because she can't breastfeed with him. He was able to, but he's intubated right now, so he can't do that. So that's why I go in the morning, right? So, like, creating a schedule and then being flexible with it, and then creating a date night, which, again, we're saying that now, but like the first few weeks when we were in this depression, crying all the time, we weren't doing this as well.
Till our friends were like, let's go get a drink at a bar and feel like humans again.
Yeah, and honestly, sometimes the bullshit helps.
It
like,
does.
honestly, sometimes just grabbing a beer with friends.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
just laughing, talking about what we used to talk about.
Sometimes it's good to have a distraction, right? And I know I in particular am always like, yo, there's so many distractions in the world, but sometimes it is good.
Right. Like, I don't feel guilty that I will go on walks in the park with my dogs or go grab a drink with you. Like, I don't think my child needs me there 24/7 to heal. We've tried doing huge days with him, and that he told us with his body, right? He needs more time there, right? With his breathing, with his heart rate. So anytime we show up, we just give him as much unconditional love, but we want to show up in the best way possible.
We slept in the NICU. We spent countless hours there, and we haven't missed a day, and multiple trips a day, each of them multiple hours a trip. But you can get lost, and then what happens is I had a really good conversation with Melissa Joy Kong. Shout out to Melissa today. And she was basically saying is, because I was getting hyped and I was thinking like all the good things, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm seeing all the beautiful positives from this now. And she goes, that's great, but like you're trying to earn your son's health, and that's just not how this works. She was like, still do those things if that's what you want to do, but like that's the masculine in you. The feminine aspect, just sit back and let it flow, and however it happens is how it happens. Like, be there, be present, care for him. Be at home, be present, care for Danielle. Don't abandon your work and your other obligations. Like,
yeah.
But understand that the best you can do is the best you can do. And I think that's kind of what helped us was I am a huge believer in God, and everything has a cause and effect, and we're meaning makers. And I don't think when bad things happen to people that it's necessarily their fault. Sometimes just bad things happen, and if you can make a meaning from it, then it's something powerful. Right? Like I don't think we could have done anything better beforehand. Due to some of our friends like Carlos, thank you, Carlos. We help out with the homeless. I take care of the elderly in my community. I do all these things. We don't run around like posting it. We just do them. And then this happens, and at first it feels like a curse, and then recently has been feeling like the biggest blessing in the world. Again, now it solidifies that the vision happened.
Yeah.
Like there's no way I won't let that happen.
We had to keep looking for that glimmer of hope, that light in the darkness, because I forgot, like, why is this happening? And like the vision, like it's just gone now, I guess. But then we see other people that have navigated the storm and how they turned it into like their greatest testimony. And I'm like, why can't that be us? You know, that's why I could talk about it so comfortably and feel, you know, neutral about it, even excited actually, because we have this great unknown in front of us, and whatever it means, you know, I trust it's God's plan. That's the way I choose to see it.
Danielle.
I was just thinking.
For those of you that can't see,
right
it's
now.
funny. She raises her hand.
Yeah, I'm like in school. This thought just occurred to me right now. Luke, earlier you were saying how you did everything right. You guys both did everything right. And I agree. There's nothing you could have done differently. Like, you were healthy. You were prepping your body for over a year before you conceived. You conceived in Lionsgate. Like, I don't know what else anyone could have possibly done differently, but you were talking about how you had this vision and you always wanted this specific outcome. But it just occurred to me, what if this was the plan all along?
That's what I think now.
What if this is exactly what was written since before you guys met, and it had to be Alexander because he's going to be the engine that gets you there?
I think that's the best way to look at it. I think that's the artistic way to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
So to kind of tie in what I was saying is, like, I think everything has a meaning. What's cool is we're meaning makers, right? So giving it that meaning, this is now way more meaningful.
100%. Yeah.
But if you don't give it that meaning and you're like, this is why me, why this, now I can't, and if you're like, oh no, now we can't do our plans, well then it's meaningless.
Mm-hmm.
And life becomes meaningless.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the simplest yet most profound truth I think of whenever things happen in life, and spending time with some of the indigenous cultures, is everything they do is purposeful. Like, everything they do has a purpose, therefore their life is always purposeful. It's really interesting. Like, when they walk into the fire pit, they walk in with their left foot, because that's the feminine, that's receiving. They're meeting with an ancient element like fire. Like, but everything has a deeper meaning and purpose. And when I think you approach it with that mindset, like, no, it had to happen this way because it happened. Peter Crone says it all the time, and I love it. I was a history teacher. I like history. I like thinking of the future. I like planning. I like improvising. And that's important for, like, learning and for the human mind. But you shouldn't ruminate on those things or what could have been, because it couldn't have been, because it wasn't. Right? So, like, it couldn't have been any other way because it wasn't any other way.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Right. I think, yeah, this is our situation parenting, but people with in relationships too. They're like, what if I went with that person, or what if I just changed this one thing? And like, then they resent their person, but really they just resent making the wrong choice, and they're only focusing on the wrong choice. Like, it's just, you get stuck. You just get stuck in the mud of your own thoughts that way. Right. I always was saying, while I was pregnant, my son's a warrior. I didn't know what that meant. I thought that's like him older, how I saw him, but he's a warrior. This kid is fighting every odds to be here. Like, he wants to be here, and he does it seamlessly. He's not crying. He's just hanging out. Honestly, that's why I can comfortably be like, he's in good care. I pray for him all the time, but like, I trust him. I trust that he's showing us he wants to be here. He's
the funniest little grub. I don't even know what to call him. He's the funniest little. He almost looks like a little gorilla. Like,
he's strong.
He's
buff.
So it's interesting because with this genetic anomaly, he's supposed to have hypotonia, which is like weak muscle, but he keeps breaking the casts and stuff they put on him.
Every nurse says he's strong.
Yeah, he's got these like little gorilla hands and like feet,
big arms.
So it's just fun. Like, and we laugh about it, right? So. And he's always putting his hand in, like, raising his fist, like, and they try to put him down. He's just constantly doing it. So, like, it's just funny to watch. But yeah, right. So I think that all the time, right? I want to have these beautiful things, and I believe in a destiny for myself since I can remember, really. That's so strong and important to me that I don't even share it with people. Because I'm not willing to have anybody say it's not, or it's whatever, it's too much. And I think if I can offer anybody anything, everybody should have one of those for themselves. That like it's so valuable to you that you don't really share it with anybody. Maybe your significant other, like.
I hope so.
Yeah, but I don't share with most people. Because I don't want to have to explain it. It's just right.
It loses its magic when you.
It loses its magic when you have to explain it, right? And I think that everybody can do that, but you have to give yourself. And it has to come from somewhere. But like that was part of what got me fired up again. Was like, no, this is my destiny. This is what I'm gonna do. I don't know how I get there. I just know I do it.
Yeah. Now our son holds us accountable, just by existing.
Which I thought was going to happen anyways, just in a different way.
Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. It's the collateral beauty, as they call
it.
Because I'm thinking like, and I've literally, this is all hitting me as I'm listening to you guys. Like it had to be you guys. You guys were prepping for this without realizing you were prepping for this. You had the idea of the land. You had the idea of growing your own food. You had the idea of not being so conventional.
Homeschooling.
The holistic. Mm-hmm. So in a way, it's like, of course, it had to be you guys. I don't think anyone else, and I've said this openly many times, could have handled it as gracefully as you guys. And also you guys are already building the tools to provide for this amazing being. It's not, this couldn't have happened. I mean, it could have happened to the average person, but they would not have been able to provide and handle it the way that you guys have. So it's kind of, there is some sort of magic. There is some magic behind this. Do you guys ever stop and think of it? I know that you do, but now that you are more aware of it as a couple, because I don't think it would work without you guys together.
Oh, yeah.
What are your plans in terms of handling it from here on out?
I mean, we're going to use all the skills we've accumulated our life to get to this point, right? His teaching background, my counseling background, our desire to have this more holistic lifestyle. It's just going to be the same thing, I think. We're just going to have to do it a different way, you know?
I think we're alchemizing it. And I think one of our biggest strengths is our community. Like you guys right here, right? Like, I don't know if I can put your guys' business out there, but they were just filming something that was very, very important that the whole nation watched this week, right? And this is like family and friends that are here filming this that we want to share with others. Mm-hmm. Like, this is how, right? We have friends that are literally top trackers in North America. They're going to help us set up outdoor woods. We have farmer friends that are doing this that taught themselves former football players. We have like my homies like running business with me, and then we have everything, mm-hmm. right? And I believe that that's 37 years of me being a man of honor. These people are like, nah, I can trust Luke.
Yeah.
Like I have crazy deals with people without contracts. They're just giving me money, and I've honored it every time, right? Like, so I'm with you where I think I don't necessarily appreciate how it's going right now, God, but I think that we are prepared to alchemize this. And some people have worse than us, right? Like some people are born in Gaza that their kids are getting bombed in schools. Like I'm well aware of that. But as far as it goes for us, this is still a pretty heavy thing. And I'd like to think we're doing the best we can. Therefore, it'll be the best it can be. But we're not being so rigid that we break. Mm-hmm. Like, we do have a beer with friends. Because if we don't, I will lose my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not changing. We're not losing ourselves in this process. That's an agreement we made. We fell in love with each other. We're not going to die that part of us as well. That's how marriages and relationships split. It's like, I signed up for this version. This is what I fell in love with. And then something shifts and it's like, who is this person anymore? And if you don't try to restore that or grow together, then you just fall apart.
And in this whole time, like, God's been with us, right? I'm going to give you an example that's just kind of funny about, I think it's a funny example of Danielle. When she gets in these moments, she doesn't realize how powerful she is, and simultaneously, like, will ignore the signs. Mm-hmm. So it's right after it happens. I'm like, you know, I get it. You're mad at God, but we got to let that go. So again, for anybody listening, as faithful as we are, we still had doubt. We still were like, God, what the fuck, man? Like it didn't last for long, but there was definitely plenty of moments of like, yo.
Totally normal.
So Danielle was like, oh, I can't even have a coffee. I got a pump, and I don't have enough milk yet. Like now she's got so much whatever, but. And then somebody just drops off a matcha latte on the front step.
I was thinking in my head, I want something sweet.
So then,
like,
so she's like, oh, whatever. It's just, wrong order. I was like, all right, cool. Leave it outside. Let's not take somebody else's order then. So we leave it outside. I was like, whatever, just go grab it. And as she goes to grab it, did you already grab it back?
I was drinking it, and then I went and sat outside. I felt called to sit outside.
And she goes to sit outside and goes, all right, well, God, just give me a sign. And a hawk flies over her with a snake in its mouth.
And looks at me with the snake, and then, like, flies off. To me, that represents victory.
Yeah, and the snake is also kind of like the medical thing. And it's like, my last name is a bird of war. Like, hawks are very symbolic for us, with me. That a lot of our ceremonies, hawks come to us. Right? And she comes in and is like, oh, a hawk just flew over with a snake. And I was like, how does that not mean anything to you?
It meant something. I just didn't know what then.
But, right, so, like, those type of things happen.
Yeah, because the whole time it's like, oh, God forsaken me. I'm all alone. He's too busy, right? And these little crumbs, it's just like a lifeline.
No, God's like, no, I'm here all the time. Just wake up.
When we're in alignment, when we feel good, all those signs start rushing in, right?
Well,
sometimes we're really low and it
to
comes.
Yeah.
Yes, we're tuned to it. By the way, we read Our Son the Alchemist while he's there, and it was really us reading it to ourselves. That book's beautiful, but it's all about following the omens, the reading of the signs, and alchemizing the situation, really.
And whether you have a kid in the NICU or not, they have signs in the NICU all over that talks about the importance of reading books to your kids before they can speak, because it increases something to do with their brain development. So right now I'm reading them Black Elk Speaks. Right, we read them kid books. I'm reading them other books.
I tried reading The Fourth Wing, but it's too sexual.
Don't do that. We play music. We've had sound healers come in with us and play him music. What's really cool too is there's this lady Teresa. We'll probably have her on here at some point. Mm-hmm. An elder lady that was in like
the Met. She performed
in the Met.
She plays the flute.
They're invited her into the National Institute of Health. She goes to NICUs and plays the flute for babies and watches their vitals and figures out what their note is. It's the coolest thing. Mm-hmm. When I was able to still hold him before he had the intubated, he would fall asleep in my arms, and she would play the flute, and she'd leave. It was awesome. So people that are out there volunteering and just going to the NICU and nobody knows about, you guys are angels. Thank you.
Yeah, it's like this weird underbelly of society. It feels like where everyone's kind of equally sharing the same trauma in a different capacity. Like some parents have been there for 3 months, 4 months, because preemie babies, you're there until they are at the gestational age, and that could be a long time. His neighbor is 22 weeks old in the NICU, our baby's neighbor. So yeah, it's one of those things now that we could look at other couples that have gone through that, and there's no words. We just know that feeling of pure powerlessness.
Okay. And before we end this first episode of Sacred Union, we plan on just kind of shooting these more regularly. I want
to see if there's any more questions.
Any more questions, yeah. Jacob, Daniela? I have one more. Okay, yeah. Daniela asks great questions. Like at dinner, she'll just, hey, this and this, what would you do?
I know. It's a hobby of mine, I guess. But so I think that, let's say, for sure, okay, Alexander in a few years, we'll look back and watch this episode, right?
I hope so.
Is there anything you would like to tell him right now in this moment of time to his future self that's looking back, watching his parents kind of go through his early stages of survival? What do you want to tell him? What do you want to tell future Alexander before we head out?
What came to my heart immediately was stay strong, Papa.
No. I was going to tell him I love him so much and that we did show up for him every single day. And
we're there
even when
day.
We're not there, we're there.
All the time. We love you very much. My little buddy. All right. Before I cry in here now.
Thank you, guys. We love you so much.
Thank you. We love you.
I'm really about to cry. So let's cut it.